To install the piston now, I want to put a little bit of oil in the top of the connecting rod so that I'm not assembling things dry. And I'll go ahead and put the wrist pin in there to get it lubed up a little bit. And then I'll take the wrist pin and insert it into the right side of the piston till it's just flush with the inside, and then flip it over. Make sure that I've got the small cutouts for the valves to the front, and then we just slide it down onto the connecting rod and push that piston wrist pin through, and there it is. And now I'm going to go ahead and install the circlip, and I think I'll have to do that off camera because there may be some cussing involved. See you in a minute. To get this in, what I've done is put a rag across the front here, rock the piston down securely, and then just fussed at this until I got that circlip in that far. And so this rag will protect the skirt of the piston and everything as we lever this in. You don't want to use any kind of excessive force or bang on it or anything like that. You just need to fuss with it until it goes. Once you've got it that far into the bore, just like before, you can just snap it into place. So go out and get yourself a good Chinese meal and save the chopsticks. Now once you think you've got that thing in there, go ahead and look at it really carefully to make sure that it's fully into the groove that's in the piston. Because if that sucker comes out, it's going to drop down into the bottom or it's going to fly into the cylinder, and there are no good scenarios around that. So make sure that that is fully into the groove. Double check both sides before you move any further with this. Now we're at the fun part, and this is the part where if you've got a buddy, go get him. I don't, so I'm going to go ahead and try and do this myself. I've gone ahead so far and coated the inside of the cylinder, at least the bottom part, with a little bit of oil, and I'm now pulling the chain through the galley, and I've got to get that hooked back up here so it won't drop back down. I've also covered up the piston with a rag so that I don't score it or damage it in any way while I'm trying to do this. Okay, now I'll pull that off and double check that the gap on that piston is back around where I want it to be. And I'm going to go ahead and set the cylinder down on top of that and squeeze the ring. And it dropped over the first ring. Now I make sure that that other ring is the way I want it to be, with a gap over here towards me. And I squeeze that in place. Okay, now it's getting down to the oil control rings, and they will just about squeeze down without too much persuasion. And it's on. Okay. Now, we just need to get that twisted around. Of course, that's going to move the rings, but the best laid plans of mice and men, as it were. Okay. Now we're to the point where we can remove all the rags. The piston is at bottom, and that seems to work best rather than having it up high. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the rags out and try and get the cylinder set back down onto the block here. Now as you're doing this, you've got to make sure that the cam chain tensioner thing over there goes up into the galley, and then you just carefully let the sleeve fall into the case. And of course make sure that you've got your spacer or your your locating dowels in here, and as it goes down on, give it a little tap. As it comes down onto that, it'll need a little persuasion. Okay, now I've got to the point where I've got to go on the other side of the bike. I've got to clip that zip tie that I put on there and start that bolt in at the bottom of the chain galley.